chairman, come and step, let me ladies sing. Chairman, come step, let me ladies sing.
Let me ladies sing.
Me double chairman, come step, let me ladies sing.
Let me ladies sing.
Oh, me double chairman,
Oh,
come and step,
let me
ladies
ladies sing. Season sickle. Laziest gentlemen, a round of applause for you all. Wow. And so, it is with a deep sense of diarrhea and a tumultuous amount of prejudice that I, Zachariah Cornelius Ephraim Augustus Barnaby. Well, you got to, if you want to hear, come and pay, brother. This is the money pan. Anything you want, you pay for it in this team meeting. So you want to hear the name again? $15,000. Same so. I, Zacharias Cornelius Ephraim Adolphus Barnaby, do hereby stand before you on this auspicious and argumentated occasion. It makes my heart leap for joy. Not even joy like Jippo. Not even Jippo like Jipporality. As I feel so honored to stand here in great tribute of my great-grandfather, Horatio Bignall, who went to Panama to dig the canal. He didn't come back with a boy or a girl, but with a big chain watch upon him belly, that little general. Before I retire to the evening's agenda, permit me to look over yonder as I call on the owner for this edificial enclosure, Lady Amina. A round of applause for her, the lady for the yard. The owner for the yard. The owner for the yard. The owner for the yard. How they do?
How they do, how they do, how they do. Greetings and salutations. Is that a salad?
Salutation.
I not salute you, I said salad. You don't understand salad. Greetings and salutations. And cucumber. We could also have let us pray. You think I was going to say lettuce? Pray as well. It gives me great pressure. A pressure, I mean? Pressure? Pressure is accepted. It brings me great pressure to welcome this very suspicious audience to this August occasion in the month of November. I come before you to stand behind you, to tell you a tale I know nothing of. Tomorrow morning I went to the theater. I take a front seat in the back. I fall from the rear to the balcony and I hurt the front part of my back. On my way to the doctor, I saw a dead donkey dying. I took out my... No, Jamaicans don't take out that thing anymore, don't it? No, we're not taking it out. But we're taking out a Ananse sound splash. We welcome everybody in Zoom land. Everybody on Zoom now, you know. PBCJ, More FM, we are being carried to millions of people. Billions. There are now how many billions of people in the world as of 2 days ago? 8 billion. And one of them had her 8 billionth birthday yesterday. She's going to stone me for having said that. Ladies and gentlemen, a principle of this festival is that it must not take place without at least one senior citizen on whose shoulders we stand. 94 years and going strong. Miss Alma Makien. Happy birthday. No. Happy birthday. Sing the chorus. Whoa. Yeah. Happy birthday. No, it is. Hooray. It is not the time for you to be spoken. You shall be spoken in due course. But somebody else who is to spoken is the senior librarian of the National Jamaica Library Service. Hallelujah. I catch myself. You come and spoken, please, and tell everybody in Zoomland who is in the house. A round of applesauce for Miss Simpson. Applesauce. Applesauce. Yes, and a piece of bulla beside it. Hear, hear? These children know nothing about bulla and pear. Wanna eat bulla? All right, so I'm talking the wrong thing. Miss Simpson, ladies and gentlemen. Laziest gentlemen.
I don't understand what is happening here. But I look around and I see people from all over. The old, the young, the merry, the not so merry. And I am here to tell you that we're happy to have you here in the tea party. And we're looking forward to hearing all that will unfold and what will happen. We welcome the prestigious people to this place. And this place is over 74 years of age. And it has a wealth of information and many, many things that we would like you to appreciate, to learn, to share, to give, to take. We really look forward to hearing all that will happen this morning, this afternoon, as we listen to what takes place in the tea party. From me to you from the library, welcome.
Great Ananse is the king of our imagination, bringing stories with the light of the ancient Africa. Great Ananse is a griot, a chantuel, a calypsonian. What a wonderful delight is to hear her stories. Like an enormous spider web, she weaves her stories, and the grandpa and the kids, they all love what there's to hear. Great Ananse is the king of our imagination. Ananse is the wonder of creation. Great Ananse is the king of our imagination. Ananse is the wonder of creation.
That the purpose of this team meeting in recognition of our past generation, the one we call the Colon Man. The Colon Man. You want to hear the Ananse? Are you paying for it? See the buckle there. So in this meeting, whatever you want, you bring the cash for it. She wants to hear the Ananse song. And so we are going to hear it now. Let me start. Brother Ananse is the king of our imagination, bringing stories with delight of the ancient African. Brother Ananse is a griot, a chantuel, a calypsonian. What a wonderful delight to hear our stories.
Stop, 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 stop.
You're paying $15,000 for me to teach you the song? What a calamity. All right, so listen to now. Whatever I say, you say after me. No, not that.
No, not that.
Stop it, man.
Stop it, man.
What foolish people are these?
Foolish people are.
Hey, I'd never start this song yet. Wait. When I start, no, you follow me. Anything I say, you sing. Brother Ananse is the king
Brother Ananse is the king
of our imagination,
of our imagination,
bringing stories with delight
bringing stories with delight
of the ancient African.
of the ancient African.
Brother Ananse is a griot,
Brother Ananse is a griot,
a chantwell, a calypsonian.
as well a calypsonian.
What a wonderful delight to hear her stories.
Delight to hear our stories.
That's the first verse. Now the second one, you have to listen good and come now. Like enormous spider web, like enormous spider web, she weaves her stories. And the grandma and the kids,
And the grandma and the kids,
they love others to hear.
they love others to hear.
Brother Ananse is the king
Brother Ananse is the king
of our imagination.
of our imagination.
Brother Ananse is a wonder of creation. Make we sing the last part there together. Brother Ananse is the, come on. Brother Ananse is the king of our imagination. What a wonderful delight to hear our stories. Ananse is the king of our imagination. Ananse is a wonder of... Who drop it down my crown? I need $1,000 to get my hat on my head. Who shall pay to get back my hat on my head? Bring the money fast. Bring the money fast or the show done right now. The hat have to come back on my head. It can't come back without cash. Raise this money to build a monument for the Colon Man. I like it. I like it. Please. Oh, what a wonderful. See this right over there in the panna jar. Yes. Take it up for me, darling. Take up, make me crown there. My beautiful Ananse crown. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Now we can proceed. At this moment, I want you all to open your eye ball and feast it upon the wall. You won't see Humpty Dumpty fall, but you will see all the sponsors that's made this possible, one and all. Put a round of applause for our sponsors who are going to be on the wall, if not now, then later on. So, as we upload our data, we move to the online theater. And from way over yonder, our first storyteller. But only after I receive $5,000. $5,000 to hear the first storyteller. Who paying for the first $5,000? Storyteller have to play. You should bring in 2,000. So 2,000 from 5,000, we need 4 more thousand. 4,000 she putting in 1, 2, 3,000. So 3 and 2 make 6. We still short of 1, right? Yes, here she comes with the one. Clap them, clap them. We shall now turn to our first storyteller. It is not 9, but I'm feeling fine. So we bring to you Reuben Divine.
Hello, Jamaica. Hello, Amina Blackwood Mix. Hello, my friends in Jamaica. I'm Reuben Corbett. I'm born in Panama City, Panama, Central America. And this year, I'm here in this Ananse Soundplash Festival to tell you stories. Si te vienen a contar cositas malas de mí, manda a todos a volar y diles que yo no fui. Timotea, Timotea was a black and white Mexican cat with a beautiful brown eyes. She was very beautiful, very educated, but above all, she was very, very coquette. Yes! From time to time, the cat Timotea put her green contact eyes, her pink shoes, and painted her lips carmine red to go for a walk, jumping over the roof of houses, singing her favorite song. Si te vienen a contar cositas malas de mí, manda a todos a volar y diles que yo no fui. If they come to tell to you bad things about me, send everyone to fly and tell them that I didn't do. And one of those afternoons in which the cat Timotea was singing on the roof of houses, saw him. Oh, a French cat named Jean-Pierre. They looked at each other. They came closer and he introduced himself and she said her name, Timotea. They talk, and after 2 weeks, they got married. Yes, married. And the French cat Jean-Pierre gave to Timotea a wedding gift. Yes, a large apartment with a rooftop pool. Yes, a top pool, ladies and gentlemen. And that department, in this department, they made many parties to which all the kittens wanted to go. They drank cold and hot meal, fried fish, tuna cans, and they wore their sunglasses and put their bikinis to swim in the pool. Timotea was very, very happy. French husband, big apartment with pool. So she felt so lonely. Until one morning, she wake up with a terrible headache. Oh my God, what is that? Timotea went directly with Dr. Felix. Yes, the cat Felix was the family doctor, and the doctor gave her the good news that she was pregnant. Yes, she was pregnant. The cat Timotea was like crazy, and her husband, the French cat Jean-Pierre, can only say oui. They were very, very happy. And until the morning, Timotea started cowing, and that cow became and that cow became a hiccup. And that hiccup became a a cat cackling. clean. Timothea could not believe it. And the French cat, Jean-Pierre, could only say, oui. And one morning, the cat Timothea put 3 eggs. Yes, she can't believe it. And her husband, Jean-Pierre Cat, only said, oui. She was desperate, but she remembered that the chickens covered their eggs with the body, and she did the same. Timothea did the same, and second passed, minute passed, and they passed, and those said yes, and from their eggs they were born 3 beautiful cats. Yes, 3 beautiful cats with blue ears and white tails. Timothea cat was very happy, and Jean-Pierre, her husband, only say oui. Quickly, the cat Timothea come down the stairs of the apartment and go to the supermarket. Yes, she bought 6 liters of milk, 6 tuna cans, 1 kilogram of fish, and she returned to her apartment. And when she come back, she can't believe it. Her kittens, her cats were on the pool. Yes, flying over the pool. She had flying cats, ladies and gentlemen, girls and kids and boys. She can't believe it. One afternoon, the cat Timothea and her French husband Jean-Pierre, they went for a walk to the park, and behind the flying cats, yes, the cats flying behind the fathers and mother, and suddenly one of the bad friends said, "What did Timothea do it to have flying cats? What she do it?" And Timothea looking at her, and she answered singing her favorite song. Si te vienen a contar cositas malas de mí, manda a todos a volar y diles que yo no fui. If they come to talk to you bad things about me, send everyone to fly and tell them that I didn't do. Y Colorado, colorín, este cuento de la gata Timotea llegó a su fin. Hello.
Yeah. Put your hands together again for Ruben. Very. Gentlemen and ladies, I have been reliably, whisperably informed that the Colon man is in the area. And so I think it is our bounden duty to pay tribute to him by telling his story. So we're going to sing for the Colon man. He's around listening. We have a little song for him, you see? I know some of you know it, so you just join with me, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, Colomana come. 1, 2, 3, 4, Colomana come. 1, 2, 3, 4, Colomana come. With him brass chain and lick him belly, bam, bam, bam. Ask him what the time and him look up on the sun. Sing.
Ask him what the time
And he look up on the sun. Come on. Ask him what the time and he look up on the sun. With him brass chain and lick him belly. Bam, bam, bam. 1, 2, 3, 4. Colomana. Little louder.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Colomana. Over here, sir. Colomana come with him brass chain and lick him belly. Bam, bam, bam.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add a verse.
She wants to add. You're paying for it? No problem, man. If you pay for it, add the verse. Let me hear this verse I never hear before.
Zoot, zoot, I glass, Americana come.
Suit, suit, high class, South Americana come. Suit, suit, high class, South Americana come.
With him brass, Jenna lick him belly bang.
Wonderful. Stop it there. Did you pay to talk? You don't talk in my arena without paying. Well, very well. Well, very well. Come fast with it. I have to see it before she go on. So you have a verse. And it has been duly, don't charge change. Put it right here. If you don't have 20, you can't get it, you know.
Want more money?
Everybody can help you. Oh, she is a nice little Howland grandma coming to help you. Come up fast, come up fast. All right, since it is being paid for, can you go with your verse, ma'am? All right. Now we left the island, he soon come back. Now we left the island, he soon come back. With him,
Just Jenna lick him belly bang bang.
everything now. 1, 2,
1,
2, 3. Everybody, Colomana. Sing the song, man. 1, 2, 3, 4. Colomana come. 1, 2, 3, 4. Colomana come. With him brass, Jenna lick him belly.
Bang bang bang.
Ask him for the time.
What the time?
And he look up on the sun, ask him what the time. Clap on yourself, clap on yourself. Wonderful, the colon man. Clap on yourself. And so, while he was whispering, he said to me, we can't have a festival like this without hearing about mass run. And he had already paid. So, without great jubilation, enough celebration, and like only Alma Makian can, we now have memories of mass run.
Can you hear me now? Okay. All right. I would like to tell you some of the things that you already know, but that is part of how tea meeting goes. Ronnie Williams was born in Panama, and he came to Jamaica. His mother was Jamaican, his father was Jamaican. The father went to work on the Panama Canal. You must know about that. And his wife went along with him and taught English to some of the Panamanian children who spoke, as the gentleman who was on that now a while ago spoke Spanish. But he became a wonderful Jamaican. And that's the thing with Jamaica, you know. When we get into your skin, we get into your skin. He was a calm person, not an impatient person as some Jamaicans are these days. He was competent, he was creative. As a matter of fact, we've been talking about that guy. And I'm looking at my notes to see when was the first time that Ananse was presented to the Jamaican public. Yes, it was on July 28 in 1942 that for the first time, and the Ananse story was presented to a Jamaican public. And that was the first time that Rani played his character role, Ananse. After that, the characteristic shuffle that Rani used when he represented Ananse became standard. I'm amazed that he has not been doing the Rani shuffle, but it might happen. Rani believed in self-reliance. He believed that the greatest therapy was laughter. He believed that most power could be had through peace. Some of those ideas have got watered down these days, it would seem. But he was, and will always be remembered, I think, as a comedian first class. One of the favorite jokes he liked to tell was of Big Boy. Now, Big Boy was a rather overgrown youngster who was kind of dumb, but anyway, he went to school and filled a spot. And this day, the teacher was telling the class about the prodigal son. Who here does not know the story of the prodigal son? Put up your hand. I don't believe it. You don't do religious knowledge at school. Well, see ya. Anyway, for those who know the story of the prodigal son, Rani said, the teacher came, she gave the story, the class was very enthusiastic, and at the end of it, she said, put up your hand if you like this story. And everybody put up their hand, including Big Boy, who normally did not participate in the class activities. He just sat there. And she said, oh, it's so nice to see you are involved, Big Boy. What did you like about this story? And Big Boy said, well, miss, this story reminds me of my brother and my father. Are you understanding the dialect? You know who your brother and your father is good. Because my father give my brother all him substance and say, go and make a life. And my brother come back. All the substance done. So the teacher, he stopped. So the teacher said, so what did your father do? He killed the fatted calf for him, did he? Brother say, big boy said, no, miss. But he almost killed the prodigal. I see one person got the joke, but that was one of Rani's favorite jokes. Another of the jokes that he liked to tell was about, again, two brothers. One was more clever than the other, and they went for a job interview. The smarter brother said, no, listen, when I go in and I'm asked the questions, listen carefully to my answer. And when you go in, you can just copy those answers. So they agreed on that. When the brighter brother went in, the first question the boss asked him was, how old are you? He said, 26, sir. Try and remember the answers. Then the boss asked, what grade were you when you left school? And the bright brother saying this loud so that dummy could hear it. 6, sir. Grade 6. The boss was wondering why the fellow was speaking so loudly, but he went on and asked, if you are selected for the job, would you prefer to travel to your destination by air or by boat? And the bright brother said loudly, boat, sir. The gentleman thanked him, promised to keep in touch, and then called in the other brother, the fool one. Now, while that guy was waiting, the phone rang, and the gentleman had to engage in a long telephone conversation. So his head kind of got a little muddled. So when the gentleman started the interview, and he said, where were we? Yes, how old are you? What should the answer have been? But he said, 6, sir. He couldn't understand that answer. But he carried on. He said, so what grade were you when you left school? Here the boy. 26, sir. The boss was becoming irritated by this. He said, my good chap, are you being impertinent or are you an idiot or a fool? Both, sir. You got the idea. So I don't have to tell you how that interview went. You don't want to hear any more jokes? No, no matter with no more jokes. Ronnie loved young people. Let me tell you, I was 94 yesterday. So if you add 9 and 4, what you get? Well, we have some big boy right in this place. When you add 9 and 4, what you get? 13. If you are 13 or 14, stand up. Nobody 13 or 14 in the audience. Pure old people. Okay. Anyway, he used to work a lot with deprived children in the Kingston area. And 2 things he always said to them: never waste time. Keep your mind occupied. Read a book or do something. And he taught them a little thing which I don't know if you would be interested to learn it, but I think you might be. It's a song that perhaps some of you know. Bits of paper, lying on the ground. You know that song? Right, so stand up, everybody. Maybe I can. Get up. Get up off your room. Now he put some movement into it, and it helped the children to remember. Watch me. Bits of paper, lying on the ground, make the place untidy, makes the place untidy. Pick them up. Can we all do that together in a country where we are being inundated with garbage? Ready?
Yes, we are. Bits of paper, lying on the ground, makes the place untidy, pick them up.
All right. So, sitting down and getting up is not so easy for me. All right. But Ronnie, he got all sorts of things for the work he did with young people. He also, related to this, did research on our Junkanoo people. Now, I wonder if you know the Junkanoo characters. You think you know them? Tell me one. Tell me one Junkanoo character. Eh?
Pitchy Patchy.
Horse head. Yes.
Pitchy Patchy.
Pitchy patchy. Belly woman.
Houseboat.
What?
Houseboat.
Houseboat. I know it as house Junkanoo.
Okay.
House Junkanoo. Yes. I got that already.
Devil.
Devil. Wild
Jack in the
Indian.
green.
Cowhead. Set girls. And sailor. All of those. Ranny took his own money. He didn't get any grant. And he went through the countryside. And he found out all these characters and revived the concept of
Junkanoo.
that crowd that I think we still have a few left today. For his work with young people, he got the Jamaica Centennial Badge of Honor in 1963 from the late Queen Elizabeth II. So he was a man of laughter, but he was also a man of action, an action that improved his society. That might be a lesson we can take from Rani, apart from his comic things. He did, long before some of you were born, he did 45 pantomimes, 2 of which he wrote. But he was always on stage making people laugh. And he was...
Last pantomime he was in was the one I wrote.
Oh, yes, right. And he, I was going to say something and you make me forget. Okay. But anyway, remember that July 25 was the first time Ananse was presented to the Jamaican public at Edelweiss Park, which is where St. Luke's Church is, next door to it. But where Marcus Garvey, the great Marcus Garvey, had his cultural center. And that was where Ronnie started out his artistic life, because it was there that he acted out Ananse, and it is from that spot that he took off and researched Jamaican folklore. And he also wrote, for he was a serious journalist as well, and he wrote for the newspaper so that uptown people could get an idea of what country people did as food making, as entertainment, which this is a part of, because it's a country folk who had this concept of tea meeting. Tea meeting was the white people's thing. They would have grand tea at 4, and the country people would imitate it and have this kind of tea meeting, which was a riot. And I hope you can follow how they twist the language. It's all part of the social changes that were suddenly beginning to take place. And we are running over time, but I'm done.
Go figure. Here, man. Where can I go figure? Find my noble chairman. Where can I go figure? Find my noble. Oh yes, him gone away to a. Woo!
Ananse has asked us to deliver this very special Ananse Sound Splash cake to Miss Alma Macien in celebration of her birthday.
9 plus 4.
Cannot
So what is 9 plus 4 now? This time it is 94. Let's stand and acknowledge our senior citizen. Alma Moken, 94 years old, just yesterday. Hip hip! Hip hip!
Nancy said, the cake will not be cut until the end of the tea meeting. Those who wishes to have a crumbs have to remain seated.
I'm going to beat for cut it. And so, as we return or retire to the agenda, we are going to make a slight altercation. We are going to, at this time, put in our hands together for the ambassador, the Costa Rican ambassador to Jamaica. The name I don't have, but let us welcome her as she comes to speak.
Good afternoon.
Love your shoes.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to start by thanking Miss Simpson. Great work you're doing, Miss Simpson. I want to thank Amina. Happy birthday, Miss Alma. You are an example. And thank you so much for having us,
Ananse.
giving us this amazing afternoon, Ananse. So I am the ambassador of Costa Rica. Do you know what an ambassador is? It sounds important, right?
Yes.
Well, actually, it is. Because the ambassador is the person from one country that goes into another to try to strengthen the friendship between those two countries. So I've been lucky enough to have been sent to Jamaica to work with the people in the government of Jamaica to try to bring our countries together. And this makes a lot of sense if you discover how many things Jamaica and Costa Rica have in common. And that is mostly thanks to lots of Jamaicans, diaspora, people from the diaspora that have come to live in Costa Rica. So first, I want to start telling you something about Costa Rica. I want to show you the flag of Costa Rica. This is our flag. Blue, white, and red. And Costa Rica is known worldwide because of some things that I don't know if you know, but Costa Rica does not have an army. In 1948, Costa Rica decided, after a civil war, that we did not want ever again for a Costa Rican to fire on another Costa Rican, to kill another Costa Rican. So the people who, yes, that is something we're very proud of. So the general who won the war, he is the one who abolished the army, and he said, from now on, all the money is going to go towards health and education. So if you go to Costa Rica, on every little neighborhood, you are going to find a hospital, even a small one. We have over 1,000 small hospitals. And you're going to find a school everywhere because education is mandatory. You have to send your kids to school. And for parents to send the kids to school, because some parents sometimes need for little kids to work, right? To have enough money. What they do is that they have this program, and if you send your kids to school and your kids get good grades, you get paid a salary as if the kids were working. Because, of course, education opens doors. So that's something we are very proud of. Of course, we need to improve. There's always room for improvement, but we do a lot towards education and towards health. Health is also free. There's hospitals everywhere, so you don't have to pay if you need surgery or you need medicines or anything, because anybody who is in Costa Rica, even if you're not Costa Rican, you get free health. So those are the things that Costa Rica is known for, and also because 1/3 of all our territory is protected, and 1/3 of all our oceans are also protected, because we know the environment is very important. So this is like I just wanted you to know a little about Costa Rica. And we have a very nice slogan. It's like the phrase that everybody in Costa Rica says all the time. This phrase is 2 words. It's called pura vida. Pura vida. So this pura vida means pure life. And it's like a way of saying how we feel in our country. And we use it for everything. So if I see Miss Alma in the morning, I'm gonna go and tell her, Miss Alma, pura vida. That way I am asking her how she is. And Miss Alma, if she's okay, she's going to say, oh Gina, I'm pura vida. That means I'm good. And then when I finish this presentation, I can say pura vida too, and that way I will be thanking you, because pura vida also means thank you, right? And pura vida also means please. I can say, pura vida, can you take my microphone? So pura vida means many things, but it shows the way we see life, that you have to be positive, always be positive in life. And part of what Costa Rica is, a lot of what Costa Rica is because of the Jamaican diaspora that arrived in Costa Rica. The first diaspora arrived in Costa Rica in 1872. Can you imagine? Long, long time ago. They went to Costa Rica to work on the railroad, and they were very hard workers. And then they decided to stay, because Costa Rica and Jamaica are so similar that they arrived in Limon and they had almost the same weather, the same kind of beaches, so they stayed there. Very famous Jamaicans have lived in Costa Rica. The first time, Mr. Marcus Garvey, that Miss Alma mentioned, the first time he left Jamaica, 1910, he went to Costa Rica. He went first to work on the railroad, but he was such a smart man, right? So he ended up editing his own newspaper. And it was in this newspaper that he started explaining all his ideas that black people should go back to Africa, all of them together, and retake Africa and go back, right? And this great movement that he took to the United States, and that was, he didn't finish accomplishing it, but he did accomplish to get all the African descendants to feel pride of where you come from. And that was one of his main things. And when he was in Costa Rica, he promoted entrepreneurship. 1910, can you imagine? Entrepreneurship means that people should try to have their own businesses, their own little businesses, not get used to working for someone else. Try to get out of your comfort zone and do something that will allow you to grow more. And he did that in 1910. And then Jamaicans stayed in Costa Rica, and if you go to Limon, this part of Costa Rica, well, that's the railroad that they were building. Maybe we can move one more forward. They also worked on the banana fields, and let's advance another one, please. That's a ship they were sending also, because without Jamaicans and their hard work, we would have never become an exporter like we were able to do. So let's move one more. They also helped in the production of cocoa. And another one forward, please. And then they started building houses. And when I went to Mandeville, and when I went to St. Elizabeth, different places, you go and you feel as if you were in this province, this parish of Costa Rica that is called Limon. when I was walking in and we had this wonderful band playing music, that's the music we play in Limon in Costa Rica. We have carnivals and we all dance, and with this music, just like I see carnivals here doing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. We do that too in Costa Rica. And this Jamaican diaspora has contributed on everything. They have contributed in culture. So we have wonderful poets that are of Jamaican descent. They have contributed in music. We have a very famous singer. He is like 97 years old. Maybe I can introduce him to Miss Alma. His name is Mr. Gavitt, and he is an amazing musician. He has a song called Cabin in the Water. Cabin in the Wata. If you should look for that in YouTube. Mr. Gavitt is really, really famous singer of Jamaican descent. But we also, maybe we can move it more. And a little more. See, like for example, this is the first Baptist church built in 1887 by Jamaicans, and it's still standing. Still standing. Okay, let's move another one. This is the newspaper that Marcos Garvey edited and produced. Was called The Nation. He's not bilingual because Marcos Garvey spoke Spanish. And maybe we can move one more. And those were the schools that little kids attended. In Costa Rica, we have a very high literacy rate now. We have like 98% of everyone can read and write. Thank you. That's because education is so important, right? But in the 1930s, the highest educational rate in all country was in Limon because Jamaican teachers were so good and so tough because little kids had to go to school, right? So this part of the country had like a 70% people that could read and write in Limon, while in the rest of the country, the parts where no Jamaicans went, only 42% could read and write. So it was much better in the area where Jamaicans live. So let's move it one more. And one more. One more. I don't want to bore you so much. This one I want to say because they also tell Ananse stories in Limon. That's part of the thing they do. We eat patty. We have rundown. We have reggae and calypso. Yep. We play soccer like you do, but that's the only time that Jamaicans in Costa Rica do not support Jamaica. That's when we go like, yeah, Costa Rica. But yeah, we also tell Ananse stories in Limon, and we can move another one forward, please. That's Marcus Garvey, the first time he went to Costa Rica. And if we move another one, that's a poem of one of the most renowned Jamaican descent poets. It's called Nostalgia, and it's about the nostalgic he felt because he missed Jamaica. So let's move another one. These are like rural homes are now in Costa Rica. Very Jamaican, right? Yes, yes, yes. We are very, very similar. Actually, Limon is called Little Jamaican. So let's move another one. And all of these very famous people, they are all of Jamaican descent. In 2019, when I first came here as ambassador, the vice president of Costa Rica was of Jamaican descent. The first vice president of African descent in whole of Latin America at the time. And I told her, I'm going to Jamaica, but you have to come. So she came and she made a visit here, and she was so happy telling the story of her grandmother, who is the first one that went to Costa Rica. So we have singers, we have football players, we have a world champ boxer. We have politicians. So Jamaican has contributed so greatly to what we are now, that I feel very, very honored of representing my country in this country, who is also part of Costa Rica. So that's why I wanted to come here. I wanted to tell you that you have an amazing culture. You are a wonderful country. You just keep working hard, keep moving forward, because Jamaica is really a corner of paradise. Jamaica is really pura vida. So thank you very much.
Pura vida. Let's say that. Pura vida. It was such an enlightening thing, you know. We felt like we were really brothers and sisters. No, so? Yes, man. That was our first lesson. Our next lesson, we move to the chapter of Lilith Nelson. And we are going to tune in once more. But while we are getting that up, which school is this? Don't know. Why don't you come here a little bit, please? Come into Ananse Garden. Come into Ananse Garden. Why don't you come into Ananse Garden? Ananse Spirit just beg me to tell you to sit down in a swing song. You think him can hold? Sit down gently. And tell me one little short story about your school.
The short story about my school, sir? Okay, so as I said, I can tell you a couple of things about my school, sir. So, my school... Sorry. So my school is Dunham Park Technical High School. And
in come fi mash up Nancy Garden, don't it? Call him down. In come fi mash up and the bits of paper lying on the floor. Left that on my water bucket. Clap him. Junoon Technical. And what school is this over here? Come right up here, sir. Come right up here, sir. Come in a big garden. Go pick a cherry and come there a little bit. Go in the garden and pick a cherry. Cherry not grow down a grown, it grow up in the here. You come up here, you see? And what school is this?
Dunham Park Technical.
So we're going to teach a little lesson from somebody named Lily Nelson, right? So welcome her for me.
We would like to welcome Lily Nelson.
All right, put your hands together for Lily as we listen to her. Thank you so much.
My name is Lilith Nelson. I am actually one who loves to sing, especially to sing Jamaican folk songs. And some of you know me as a university singer, yes, for many years. And of course, Jamaican folk songs were prominent in our repertoire. Here is this one I'm going to share with you. It's called Fanny. As a matter of fact, you might have heard it done by the Jamaican folk singers, led by Olive Lewin. But this is one which tells about a woman called Fanny who pretended that she was going to downtown, going to Kingston from country, and she was just going down to Kingston. But guess what happened? She was really taking off to go to Panama and left her picnic behind. So the song says, what a workless dry-eyed girl like Fanny, because she tell a big lie, so she going to Kingston, and what do you think she gone to Panama? You know, women used to go to Panama too, not just men, because she went either in search of a better life or probably after her man, you know, who knows? Okay, here goes. What a workless dry-eyed girl like Fanny. What a workless dry-eyed girl like Fanny. What a workless dry-eyed girl. What a workless dry-eyed girl. What a workless dry-eyed girl like Fanny. Fanny left him picnic gone to Panama. Fanny left him picnic gone to Panama. Fanny says she going a tongue. Fanny says she going a tongue. But me know say Fanny gone to Panama. What a walkless dry eye gal like Fanny. What a walkless dry eye gal like Fanny. What a walkless dry eye gal. What a walkless dry eye gal. What a walkless dry eye gal like Fanny. Fanny, oh. And then though this other one is called Colon Man. Now, a lot of you might know this one because, you know, the men used to go to work under very harsh circumstances, harsh situations to help to build the Panama Canal. But when they came back, of course, they couldn't make it known that they were, you know, any less than better than when they left. So they would come back with the symbol.
For that lesson. So it's feeling fine to be online. So we continue. You want face to face? $50,000 to stop the line. One day the thing going mash up. She whole time-ish. Yes, we're going back online. 51,000. Sorry, madam. So we are back online and feeling fine. And this time we put our hands together for Poet Laureate. We are going to have a splendid presentation at the moment. So tune in, all your generation.
Greetings, everyone, and heartiest congratulations to the organizers of yet another Ananse Sound Splash, and especially to founder Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks. Thank you all for inviting me to be part of this really exciting week. I like to think of storytelling as throwing a stone in a pond and watching the ever-widening circles. The placement in the circles will reveal the story type because there are stories and stories, and all of them matter as giving flesh to bone or animation to dead matter. When we think story, we think first of all of stories that are told, the tales we know and love and grew up with, Ananse stories, Bible stories, Duppy stories, or simply bedtime stories or family stories handed down. We forget that our first and most important stories are about ourselves. Every day we construct stories, narratives in our minds of our doings and feelings, and interactions with others woven together all day long. We share them with others as need arises. You know, I was late for work this morning, because, or something like, the face man that live across the way, you hear what happened to him? we all know how we operate in our daily lives. And this is how our days unfold. This is how we share experience with each other. And although we might not be conscious of it, this is how we construct our sense of self and what it means to be human. Finally, at the outermost story circle, we have what we might call the grand narratives, the big stories that encompass our histories, our peoples, our times, the stories that shape our world. The irony is that these grand narratives, the big stories, are the very ones we are not good at recording or remembering. Yet, they are essential to give us a sense of perspective, to shed life on our own times. I like to think of revival of storytelling through this festival as pointing the way forward, to retrieve not only the old Ananse or other traditional stories, but also those parts of our histories, our lived experiences that are in danger of being lost, and yet which can tell us so much about ourselves. The power of storytelling comes from repetition, after all. What happened today happened before. Such is the current story of large-scale migration from the island, one which Ananse had already woven into the popular song from earlier times, Colon Man, which I'm sure you all know. This song is the only thing we seem to remember about significant earlier migrations to Central America. To add insult to injury, I have found that few, if any, of the children caught singing Colon Man know that Colon is a place and that it loomed so large in the consciousness and lived reality of our forebears. It is that migration story, the setting for Colon Man, if you like, that I have told in my own grand narrative, in quotation marks, called Dying to Better Themselves, West Indians and the Building of the Panama Canal, published by University of the West Indies Press in 2014, which was the centenary of the opening of the Panama Canal. The large-scale migration of Jamaicans in search of work abroad began in the immediate post-emancipation period and continued for the next 80 or so years until the worldwide depression of the 1920s curtailed it. Jamaicans were to provide the majority of the workforce for the construction of the Panama Railroad, which was from 1850 to 1855. The failed attempt by the French under de Lesseps to build the Panama Canal, which was from 1881 to 1889, and the canal's successful construction by the United States, which was from 1904 to 1914. And in the latter periods, they were joined, Jamaicans that is, were joined by large numbers of other West Indians, especially Barbadians. Panama then became the mothership as islanders launched themselves from there to other destinations as work beckoned: Costa Rica, Ecuador, Honduras, Mexico, and then Cuba and the United States itself. 250,000 people of an estimated population of less than 2 million left the West Indies permanently during this time, leading to serious work shortages and depopulation in some areas. In writing the Panama story, I was struck time and time again on how the more things change, the more they remain the same. To give one example, how those 20th century higglers who started this scallion run to Panama in the 1970s and 1980s were in fact recycling a long-established practice visible from the time of the building of the Panama Railroad in the 1850s, in which Jamaicans provided not only most of the workforce, but seemed to have been ubiquitous in turn in hand to every activity. And I'll quote a little from the book. Into the jungle villages and hastily built camps came cooks, tailors, shoemakers, traders, clerks, hoteliers, farmers, doctors, lawyers, newspapermen, photographers, printers and higglers, quacks and conmen. Jamaicans, the largest ethnic group, were in the thick of it. The colored woman, who became an iconic figure, was none other than a very familiar occupational and social type today, the higgler or itinerant vendor. Interestingly enough, the original higgler, though of a higher social type, I might say, was indeed one who is now acknowledged as the most celebrated Black woman of the 19th century, Mary Seacole, famed more for her activities as a healer and for the autobiography that she wrote. And even more famous in recent times, I might say, as she has been claimed by England. In 2004, Mary Seacole was named #1 in a poll in the United Kingdom to identify 100 great Black Britons. Her newly discovered portrait in oils is on loan to England's National Portrait Gallery, and her magnificent statue stands in the heart of London in front of St. Thomas Hospital. Mary Seacole went to Panama ostensibly to join her brother, who had set up a hotel to cater to the travelers crossing the isthmus, but really to seek out her own business opportunities. For, as she tells us in her autobiography, and I quote, "I allowed no grass to grow beneath my feet, but set to work busily, for I was not going to him empty-handed. My house was full for weeks of tailors making up rough coats, trousers, etc., and seamstresses cutting out and making shirts. In addition to these, my kitchen was filled with busy people manufacturing preserves, guava jelly, and other delicacies, while a considerable sum was invested in the purchase of preserved meats, vegetables, and eggs. Making a living is what it has always been about. I hope that I have presented enough evidence in the book Dying to Better Themselves to support my assertion that the huge waves of poverty-stricken job seekers and entrepreneurs traveling to Panama and elsewhere in Latin America from the mid-19th century were agents of transformation. They transformed the places to which they went, refashioned themselves, and moved their island home economically, socially, and politically into the 20th century. Unfortunately, colored man has become the sole iconic image remaining of those years. But it happened to be only one part of the story of who went and returned. Who or what was colored man? And again, I quote from the book. Some returnees chose to be highly visible, flaunting their difference. Every village or district the length and breadth of the islands would end up with at least one colored man, Panama man or Cuban grandee. He had a style of walking known as the Yankee strut, of talking, the Yankee twang, salted with Spanish words and phrases, of dressing, and more important, of behavior. And after the war, he was joined by the ex-soldier who had also traveled overseas, because it was a romance of being a traveled man that set them apart and gave them heroic status in their own eyes and among some of their peers. But attitudes to their presence were mixed and very much in the eye of the beholder. And we should note that apart from colored man, throughout the West Indies were many actual men and women who returned home with money and used it to rise in society. The most outstanding example was George Stibble of Jamaica, described as the hemisphere's, quote, first black millionaire and builder of Devon House. Many other sober returnees inserted themselves back home quietly, without fuss, and those whose presence added, and I quote, added to the local reservoir of wisdom and knowledge of the world outside. Throughout the Caribbean, they became, quote, the village elders, older and experienced men and women to whom everyone else in the community would take their problems as well as appeals for advice. Men such as Pa in George Lamming's In the Castle of My Skin. Their effects were felt in every sphere. The ideas of modernity, race, and radicalism the migrants brought from abroad were to forever change the social, political, and religious landscape. Nevertheless, the most striking effect of emigration was economic, one that had an impact over the whole time period as the immigrants traveled back and forth. And I won't read this quotation, but you would recognize in their activities the activities of immigrants of much later times, including today, including the fact that they travel back and forth, or they sent money, they started building a house, they added to it when they had money, they left their children with relatives, etc., etc. As I say, if it's happening today, it happened earlier. Although much of the book is concerned with wage labor in Panama, among the many secondary stories I unearthed was one that seems relevant today as we enter the final years of celebrating the OAS-designated Decade for People of African Descent in the Americas. That is the story of Jamaica's long connection with Central and South America. In order to understand the historical connection, we need to think of a time before airplanes, when travel was waterborne without border controls and required neither passport nor visa. As historian Franklin Knight observed, and I quote, "In days of sailing ship, the transit from Europe or Africa to the Americas could not be done without first calling at some Caribbean port or other." Centered within the Caribbean basin, Jamaica was strategically situated as a takeoff point for many of these excursions to the so-called Spanish Main, and remained the connecting point between Central America and Europe until the 19th century. The island lies only 550 miles northeast of Colon, Panama, and a fast-sailing ship could make the journey down in about a week, helped by the prevailing trade wind. Steamships reduced the time during the Panama Canal construction to 36 hours. But if one looks at a map of the Caribbean basin with Jamaica as its center, one can see how circulating ocean currents plus knowledge of the prevailing trade winds could enable even small boats to navigate the Caribbean basin from one end to the other and right up into the Gulf Stream. So what happened is that turtle fishermen, logwood cutters, and traders from Jamaica formed settlements on the Caribbean coast from as early as the 18th century in Bocas del Toro, Panama, the Mosquito Coast of Nicaragua, and the Talamanca coast of Costa Rica, among others. Wives and children followed, and Jamaicans and other Caribbean folks did what they continued to do in these lands over the next centuries. They took a piece of land, planted the ground, and put down roots. Their numbers were augmented from then onwards by wage laborers for banana plantations, railway and canal construction, rubber and mahogany industries, and so on. This is why even today in Nicaragua or Costa Rica or other parts of the coast, you can find West Indian foods, accents, cultural practices, and stories, part of our own migration story. Despite all of this, it was Panama gold that captured the imagination down to the 20th century, when former cane cutters or workless, landless peasants from the islands wielded pickaxes and shovels digging the Panama Canal, and they sang, "I love you, yes I do, you know it's true. I'm going to Panama to work and send for you. And when you come to Panama, how happy you will be, 'cause money's down in Panama like apples on a tree." The presence of West Indian workers on the Panama Canal was everywhere at all levels of the workforce. Yet, if you read all the accounts written during the U.S. Panama Canal construction and later, you would never know that the islanders provided fully 2/3 of the labor force required for the construction. David McCullough, whose history, The Path Between the Seas, was for a long time the comprehensive text, noted that the American tourists who arrived in their thousands to view the big ditch under construction were no doubt shocked to see black men at work, as the impression conveyed in American books, journals, and newspapers of the day was that this was a wholly white American enterprise. Indeed, to quote him, cartoons in the newspapers depicted the canal being dug by cheerful white Americans with picks and shovels. Nothing could be further from the truth, but this is how the American grand narrative was framed. I first went to Panama out of curiosity, but it was like many of my generation, I had grown up with people who had gone to Panama. But it wasn't until I was much older that I realized I really knew nothing about their experiences there. And by then it was too late to find out or to ask them. So I went to find out for myself. My initial research was undertaken in the Canal Zone Library, and it opened my eyes in ways I hadn't expected and led to many, many, many more years of research in Panama and Jamaica. Because what I was reading day after day, sometimes, I won't tell you I cried, but I did. But I really felt that I had to write the counter-narrative to tell the story from our side, from the other side. So, in Jamaica today, people equate the word story with lies, as when the skeptical responds to a tale, "You too, story." But here it is. I wanted to tell a story that ran counter to the received history, to contradict the millions of words that had been written in books, newspapers, and magazines of what was for many years the top international news story of the day, the digging of the Panama Canal. Words that had not been written by the people who were doing the hard labor. About the black workforce, virtually all were incredibly racist, ignorant, and disrespectful, and conveyed nothing of the environmental horrors. In recent years, may I add, new scholars have come up, new American scholars, who have been writing the story in a far more balanced way. But when I started research, there was very little on the West Indian contribution. And what there was didn't really get to the heart of the matter. The actual stories of the people who went and why, what they did, the actual stories of the people who went and why, what they did there, how they lived, and so on. The people who went to Panama were not in the habit of recording their stories, or even with sharing them with loved ones back home. So I had to cast my net widely. I used not only the official records in Panama and Jamaica, but research became search. Oral histories, songs, saying, newspapers, any written fragment I could lay my hands on, and the words of the participants themselves, wherever I could find them. I wanted my story of little people to be a grand one, also one that could not be challenged. I wanted to tell it not as dry as does history, but as our story, the way we tell stories, with life and animation. Where possible, I allowed the men to speak in their own dramatic fashion, telling of the highs and lows of their experience as a counterpoint to the bigger story. For example, this is a little bit in the book about what was happening on the construction. Work on constructing the lock chambers, as well as the massive lock gates and cableways, often involve workmen in perilous tasks at great heights. Falls, usually fatal, often occurred. The West Indian workers' song, "Money Grows Like Apples," refers to these dangers. You get more money for that job than working in the cut, but it all depends, my honey, on you don't get hurt. For if you ever get a drop, you surely have to die, for them gates, Lord God, is 75 feet high. Workmen broke their necks falling from trestles. One died after being crushed between a locomotive crane and a staircase in the wall of a lock chamber. Another died after being caught between the bed and carriage of a crane. One day, 3 were killed at Miraflores Lock when they fell from a scaffold to the floor of the lock 60 feet below. A Grenadian fell but was not killed. Another workman saved himself by thrusting a wrench through a hole in the leaf gate and hanging on it till rescued. Some men got hardened to witnessing death every day, while others broke when it came too close to them. Lancelot Kavanagh was working at Gatun Locks when with an air hammer high in the air, when an accident hurled men and machines to the ground, killing 4 and injuring many others. He got so frightened he, quote, never went back for the 4 days' pay I had there, end of quote. Nehemiah Douglas of Jamaica was a rigger working on the gates at Miraflores when a cable broke and killed some men. And he said, the amount of blood that flowed gave the appearance of a little gully. And when I saw what happened, an island of blood, I got nervous, I think, because how I got down, I do not know. But I got down and ran like never a man run before, straight home to Paraiso. So fast did I run that when I arrived home, I heard the whistle giving the knock-off signal. And these are just some examples of the stories of the men laid alongside the official reports. And to conclude, earlier I used a metaphor of throwing a stone in the pond to see how stories rippled out from the smallest circle to the largest. I did the opposite here. I took the big story and broke it down into smaller and smaller stories, right down to the level of the individual. I took my lesson from oral storytelling and used the power of the imagination to bring the facts to life. I also took a montage approach as done in film, juxtaposing the official accounts with personal accounts where possible. In addition, in the book, I use hundreds of photographs to further enlighten and verify. And so that in the book, you can see exactly what a lock gate, the height of a 6-story building that the men were riveting, looks like. Because I felt the images were very important to the story. Storytellers today have at their disposal the technology that we did not have. For instance, graphics, music, sound, and voice, which enable them to move away, or enables them to move away from the mute book and print that are, of course, still important. Yet, all storytellers still have to employ the traditional techniques in order to engage a listener so they become part of the action, encouraging the teller by their reaction to the story as sweet or salt. I implore you, as listeners who will experience the power of storytelling during a week of Ananse Soundsplash, to rethink the idea of storytelling as simply a retelling of the traditional story, but consider the possibilities that it offers for nation building, for the revival of community life, and contriving engaging encounters with our history. What if we employed our storytellers to rephrase the facts of life and hopeful longings into language everyone can understand, the language of every day? The stories that we tell can do more than entertain. They can also examine how we can come and go like Ananse or Colonman, leaving footprints around the world. Thank you all for listening to my story. Have a wonderful day.
Applause for the lady, man. Come on, come on. Very well. Oh, Olive, what's the name? Olive Senior. Have you ever read any of her books? You have seen a few. Have you read them? As Jamaicans, I think we all ought to get inside of Olive Senior's book. We can learn so much. Right here at the library, we can find them. A to Z of Jamaican heritage, encyclopedia of Jamaican folklore, and all of those. So a bigger round of applause for her. So, we have some more things to do for the rest of the week. You came here today, but guess what? On Friday, Ananse is going to school. Yes, Ananse will be in Innswood High School, and it's coming on live. The links have been sent to your schools. You get on at 12:30, and you can get much more fun on one of the legs of Ananse. On Saturday, he's going to Liberty Hall, Marcus Garvey's center where they are the arts. Right? That's another thing for Saturday. And on Sunday, which is National Storytelling Day, all the libraries across Jamaica, especially St. Anne Parish Library, Marcus Garvey Place. That is where we're going to have the national event, and you're all invited to tune in and be a part of that. So, you know, some schools were here today. We have Dunoon Park. Give yourself a round of applause. We have Fair Prospect High School from Portland. Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, Mansion Hill Primary from Portland is there too. Edna Manley College is here. Yeah, give a round of applause. Any other school? Any other school? Woolmer's Boys is here. Yes, give a round of applause. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. And Jamaican School is always here. Guess what? When my secretary checked the amount that was collected, we reach our targets and we can erect the monument. So I won't charge you for nothing else. And seeing that we don't have to collect no more money, I don't see no reason carry on this function no further. So, yes. And Nancy love Bicky, you know. What is Bicky? Food, man, food. For our health and strength and daily food. We praise thy name. That is more reason for it done this sin thing right now. Everybody put your hands together for the coming out. And see you later. See you later.